Hi everyone, welcome to webinar 42 now. Um, Today we'll be talking primarily about TikTok and Instagram Reels and how these two platforms could bode well for you and your print-on-demand store or your business endeavors overall. Um, Kind of to relay back to what we did last week, just as a reminder, not last week, but a couple weeks ago, we talked about storytelling techniques for your print-on-demand business and what that means for your marketing efforts. Primarily, we went at length about what it means to weave in a story within you yourself as a business entity and how that can really feed into people's want for content, but also personability and also organic feel to marketing. As we know, marketing sometimes feels a bit too polished or it's a bit contrasting with the content that's on social media platforms, for example. And so we kind of just talked about how you can make storytelling part of your narrative and part of your marketing strategy overall. So if that's of interest, we did post the video on YouTube and that is now available over there at Lumaprints on our YouTube channel over there. And as well as previous YouTube videos that we've done and webinars. But going straight into this one, hopefully this is of interest to you. It certainly is for me as someone who's in the weird cusp of millennial and Gen Z. TikTok and Instagram Reels are probably the go-to platform for people of younger demographics. And also it's now becoming popular with people my age and older. So I see kind of trends shifting and things, dynamics, I will say, forming when it comes to the creator and the marketing strategies and also the consumer base. Um, as you guys know, TikTok really hit it off in 2020, formerly known as Musical.ly, and it's now what it is. Previously, it used to just be people dancing to sound bites and people who were everyday, people, high schoolers, workers, nurses, things like that, would just dance to music. And that's what the platform was built on. But it developed into so much more. And even nowadays, its current goals and aspirations does not look like what it did 3 or 4 years ago. And so I want to talk about how that works in tandem with you and trying to figure out your marketing efforts on a platform like that. And if you're still debating whether or not you want to advertise or put marketing efforts or social media efforts on TikTok, hopefully this presentation could give you a better clarity on that. And if you want a quick TLDR or a quick answer of should I invest time and effort into TikTok, I say depending on your product, yes. For the most part, I would recommend it to most artists and business owners who do print on demand and online selling. So something I highly recommend. And I'm not here to necessarily convince you, but it's primarily to show you how this is a very interesting avenue worth deeping further or digging into as you're trying to figure out what is the best strategy for you in your marketing. So what I'm going to do is kind of share some slides with you and also help you figure out, you know, your decision based off of this information, data, and things to keep in mind when thinking about these platforms. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so in general, we could start with what is short form video marketing, and specifically surrounding TikTok and how that has kind of changed the landscape of marketing and also general media consumption in general. Um, During a very pivotal time in a lot of our lives, given in 2020, you know what happened there. A lot of people were tending to stay at home and find entertainment in other ways. And so one of those ways was watching videos on their phones. And, while people probably like me enjoy YouTube a lot, there's also a resurgence or a growing number of people who are really enjoying short form video content. That is video content that is not going to be more than, 3 minutes long or even shorter than that. Um, as we've probably seen it in previous endeavors, such as Vine, for example, if you guys remember Vine, that was about a decade ago, and that had its own popularity for a point in time, and that relied on 7-second videos. unfortunately eventually did not come into fruition as developing further than those 7-second videos. But now we have something like TikTok, which I think is now kind of the successful rebranding of what would be Vine. But now TikTok, on the other hand, they're doing things differently now. And it's very different from what initially started off with, which, as I mentioned previously, what was music video, people dancing to music and people creating content around sound bites. It's now a lot more than that. And as business owners, I think it's worth looking into how it's developed and how this could be the platform of selling for you. Um, I think when we think about short form video content, yes, we think about quick and easy, satisfactory videos right then and there. But something I always kind of want to create the parallel between is think about how long advertisements are, and think about then what the video content that you're watching is. For example, if you're watching television, ads could span between 2 to 3 minutes, but it's going to be multiple ads from different companies. And then you go into your 15-minute block of television. So the stark contrast between advertisement and television show or movie is going to be very stark and very contrasting. Whereas here on a platform like TikTok or even on something like Reels, you're going to see that the transition between a video that's advertising something and a video that is just meant for pure entertainment is going to be very similar to each other. Sometimes, often, you won't imagine that the video advertising to you is doing just that because in and of alone is engaging enough and it bodes well with the environment that it is in, which is kind of one of the key things you should consider when making marketing efforts, paid or free, if you will, efforts on those platforms. Consider how you can organically put yourself in these people's algorithms and their feeds without making it seem too contrasting to the overall environment at hand. And we could kind of deep dive into TikTok a bit more. But right now, some key indicators to know about TikTok right now is that the short format is very popular, yes, but TikTok is putting efforts towards pushing its longer video formats. So you'll see in both TikTok and Instagram Reels, they place efforts and promote products, not products, but they promote videos that do well in a specific way. And if they're trying out new experimental phases, such as right now TikTok, they're going to be allowing longer videos, yes, but they're also promoting longer videos in general. And by that, I mean, they could, as of right now, for example, they could be, I believe, if you record on TikTok, they could be up to 10 minutes long. If you upload a video onto TikTok, it could be up to 60 minutes long. But we could discuss further on how to best optimize your videos and video length for marketing and just general good algorithm. Things that help you do well in the platform is first off, they have a video editing tool that's very useful and very intuitive. I myself have used it a couple of instances, and as someone who used computer video programming and editors, I would say that theirs is very intuitive, beginner friendly, and it could also bode well to those who have a good understanding of editing. So if you're intermediate or advanced, the TikTok editing feature is still really powerful. And I would even go as far as to suggest that you should use the tools within the video editor, such as the filters and sound bites within that uh, editor, because what will happen is that TikTok promotes those who use filters that are popular and use sound bites that are current and trending within that time and place. So consider editing within the platform and don't be scared to use it because it's rather intuitive and easy to use, even if you yourself haven't edited a video before. Um, and another very big key feature, which I'll talk a bit at length more about, is the TikTok shop, which is now one of the things that they, not recently, but I would say in terms of their timeline, it is sort of recent, is an integrated shop that mixes commerce with entertainment. And from what I've heard from people and what I've seen in articles, it seems to do really well if you hit the right niche at the right time and other parameters to keep in mind. But so far, it's been very popular amongst print-on-demand sellers and people who sell their products online. Um, Something to be noted about TikTok overall, again, these things we'll talk about more at length, but I kind of wanted to talk about the over encompassing features. In terms of its algorithm, I would say that its algorithm is something that I haven't seen before in terms of its accuracy and also its ability to keep a consumer on the platform. One of the woes that a lot of the users might say is that they can spend like a good 4 hours on TikTok and never realize that time has passed. Some people may say that's a bad thing. What could say for you is that there's more chances for you to pop up on someone's feed if you use the right tools and right features and parameters to make a algorithm friendly video, which we'll talk more about. But what TikTok does is they not only look at your likes, follows, and other parameters, they also see how long you interact with the video. Did you click on the person's, the creator's profile? Did you like a comment in there? If so, what type of comments did you like? And did you quickly scroll past a video? How often do you interact with videos of a certain type? They tend to build your TikTok to really feed into what you like and then keep away things that you don't like. And it does a good mix of introducing things that you already interact with and then mixing it with new things they think you might like. And it's actually, to some people, it's a little bit interesting the way that within like a couple of hours of scrolling, they have the algorithm completely catered to you and your interests, whether they're really niche or they're very broad indicators. They know how to really center on a user and their specific wants and their specific preferences for video content. So I think it's something we haven't seen before, and other websites have emulated something similar to it, but to the degree of accuracy that TikTok has, you don't really see it anywhere else, I would say. And then going more in depth about the TikTok shop, because I think it's an interesting new feature worth considering as business owners and as artists. Because one, you can leverage an integrated platform, and two, there are many, I would say, drop-off points or points within video content creation that you can have a customer become what was a viewer into a customer in a matter of one video or two videos. If you are convincing and or you create the right video content for that. Um, I would say that it's very easy to set up, and because it's in its still infancy stage, there's a lot of things to work with and a lot of features to consider. And as you go ahead and develop further alongside TikTok Shop, you'll probably figure out what would work for you best for you in your store. Um, if you look on the side of the screen, you'll see kind of a breakdown of what has been the most popular in terms of types of products that sell well on this platform. Clothing makes sense. Beauty and care makes sense. I think about people who sell makeup and things like that. Food and beverages, health. There's also home supplies and other aspects. But if you think about how there's a lot of content creators who are interior designers, who are artists, a lot of them have a high engagement rate. So there is a lot more room for people who sell art or are interested in design and home decor. There's a lot of room for there to explore when it comes to creating viewers into customers. I wish I had an example right now, but on my feed personally, I follow a lot of home decorators, and their interactions are relatively high because they're showing very interesting, setups of the homes or rooms, or they offer advice to people who are looking to judge up their rooms with something new. And oftentimes they suggest a pop of color, which is sometimes or oftentimes in the form of wall art. So consider that there is a niche that still needs to be fully developed and it still needs room to grow. And I think that is definitely the sector where wall art can find its niche and its demographic, which is people looking to zhuzh up their place, people who are interested in collecting art. Um, I think that we'll talk a bit more about this, but I think when it comes to what type of art to convey to people who are on TikTok or even Instagram Reels, it's worth at first showcasing some of your products that are price accessible, such as ones that are, postcard sized or ones that are gift size. And then also adding quick or easy links to higher price point items such as canvas or one of a kind or originals. So there's something to explore there at the very least. And I kind of just wanted to show you really quick how a video looks like on when you're utilizing TikTok Shop really quick. So let me go to the next slide. Yeah, as you can see here, it shows a lady putting on lipstick, and right then and there, if someone really likes that lipstick shade and like, oh, I want that shade, they'll go and click on that shop right there, and immediately they could add to cart or explore the website further. And so they have made it a very clean and easy and intuitive transition for people to go from viewing your content to adding the product to their cart. And TikTok, they might receive a small percentage of this, so they themselves incentivized to make shopping for your products a key point and a key feature of their shop of their brand. Okay, to the next one. And then kind of moving on into Instagram Reels, very similar to TikTok. It was initially made in a rush, I would say, to compete with TikTok as they saw a lot of people flocking over to their competitor's website or the competitor's app. So they decided to include Reels into their own website. I don't know if you remember the inception of Reels, but if you recall at the very beginning of it, a lot of it was just re-uploads of TikToks, and oftentimes it was just a way for people to see TikToks without being on TikTok. I would say that's not necessarily the case as much anymore, as both pre-existing content creators on Instagram and also TikTok creators moving into Instagram Reels are both putting in original videos and content onto Instagram Reels now. And I would say that it's just as viable and very interesting to look at when we're thinking about what audience to kind of select when it comes to Instagram Reels versus TikTok overall. Because if you think about it, a lot of people who are on TikTok are younger and they are more likely to be either high school or college age, which doesn't mean they don't have spending power. They do. But you are going to get a more diverse group of purchasers on Instagram Reels just because almost everyone and their mom is on Instagram, I would say. It's just a really great sharing platform for everyone and it's very accessible to everyone. And I think Reels is a really soft transition from Instagram's normal postings to what would be something similar to TikTok, but not really. And like TikTok, Instagram Reels is also built on short video content. And at this point in time, Instagram is doing a lot more promotions for and pushes for Reels as opposed to other forms of content on the platform, such as regular posts or stories. So when you're thinking about, okay, well, I'm already on Instagram, I have a healthy, active following. Should I move to 100% Reels? And that is not necessarily something I could answer immediately, and it depends on who you are as a creator. But ultimately, I think at the very least, it's worth considering posting a few Reels here and there as you mix it with your content that you usually post. And there is no discouragement when it comes to posting similar content but on different formats within Instagram Reels. For example, if you make a story on your Instagram, you can easily turn that story into a Reels. If you feel like inclined, so you can even just tinker it a little bit so it bodes well more so with the Reels than it does with the story format. But that's just one way to perceive Reels and how you can then introduce it to your audience and to the Instagram audience at large. I guess a good starting point for both, and this is going to apply mainly to both of these platforms. I know there's YouTube Shorts, but in my opinion, it's still very early in its development that we can talk about it maybe later in the future, but at this point in time, it's very, I wouldn't say hyperbolic, but it's very chaotic in its algorithm still. And I don't know if I would recommend it, but if you have a good YouTube standing, then I see why not. They are pushing for those. So if you are looking to boost viewership in your YouTube channel, it's worth considering YouTube Shorts. But that's kind of an aside to what we're talking about today. Kind of going back to this, when it comes to the hashtags and SEO strategies, 2 to 3 is a good starting point. You don't want to oversaturate your video or your content with too many key hashtags that you think are just going to do well. Consider that, broad hashtags aren't always the most useful ones. So I would recommend mixing the more broader hashtags with more niche ones and see what works. And then consider also using terms that are stronger in comparison to their alternative name for things, such as, a get ready with me, so it would be much stronger to type out the abbreviation of get ready with me than it is to type out the whole term. That's just one way to consider. Um, and then, and when it comes to SEO strategies, I think with TikTok in particular, it's very useful for people who are no longer really using search engines such as Google sometimes. Think about when you're looking up a recipe, a lot of people who use TikTok don't go to Google anymore to look up a recipe. In fact, they're going more likely to TikTok to look up a recipe and see what they can find there. They just want to see things that are created by people and for people like them. So they are more inclined to look up things that they need on TikTok now. And this could either be in the form of, what's this product like? What is this recipe? What about this type of fashion, or what about this type of trend going on? People are always inclined to learn more on TikTok. And the reason for this is because they have a feature. If you go into the comments section, they oftentimes highlight in blue a term that is often searched up in relation to this video. So if someone is, posting an art video and someone looks up the genre of that art style, say someone, is drawing an oil painting, someone might comment, "Oh, I love this oil painting. I wish there was more that I could see on this website." There TikTok is going to automatically, or using its kind of algorithm, it's going to automatically highlight oil painting in that comment, and you could click on it. And clicking on it will lead you into the search for oil painting. Even if it's not commented on, TikTok will also record when someone searches up something as a result of a video. So even if it's not indicated in the comments, say someone looks up more oil painting content, they're going to highlight that as a top feature on top of the comments above it. So how that works for you as a potential content creator on there is that if you notice people are looking up a certain term as a result of your videos, see how you can answer that question or answer that search, if you will, in the form of a video content. Maybe consider duetting or replying to that comment in video format, which is something that's allowed on TikTok, which is if someone comments on your video, you can comment back with the video in of itself. People use this for Q&As. People use this for responses if something is, looking to have more details further dived into. Um, and overall, the SEO on TikTok rather is very powerful and it's very useful. It also gives content creators a lot of leverage and a lot of things to work with. So you're not in the dark when it comes to what are people looking for and how can I cater to those searches and those wants. If you have people who do content similar to you or sell art that's similar to yours, consider seeing what their audiences are searching up as well, which you can see. Something to note is that anyone could see these highlights and these searches as well. So it could be you as a content creator, and it could be also people who are looking to see what other people are searching for, people who are just passing by on their For You page. Um, I would say with TikTok and Reels, as a result of you looking at the search and seeing what's popular, um, what I've seen work really well with artists on TikTok or Reels is showing the painting process or the process in which your artist created, highlighting a story regarding the piece or why this piece means much to you. This is kind of harping back to storytelling and marketing. But that's a very strong way to have people pause and take a look at your video in full. Um, and another point is you could also show your piece in a very aesthetically pleasing room. And this is just to create inspo and really capture the audience with the visuals of it all. But there's many different aspects in which you can really bring in an audience, and what works for you on one platform may just in turn work well for you here on TikTok as well. You just have to figure out how to best integrate it into the environment there, I would say. As I mentioned before, there are some engagement tactics, and these are ways to encourage more viewership and more engagement, and as a result, encourage people to actually make a purchase on your store, whether it's a TikTok shop or a link to your e-commerce store that's in your bio or your link tree, as an example. But one of the first things you could definitely do is duets, and you could either duet other content creators who are doing really well on and either they're getting a lot of interactions, they're going viral. You are more than welcome to duet with them, and that in itself can have some remnants of their engagement and go to you as well. You could also do it yourself and like do a before and after, or and this happened and as a result this happened. Experimenting with art techniques and showing the beginning and then the result as a duet, that's also very feasible. If you're noticing a lot of people talk about something in your video, then you could duet it with a response to those inquiries or those questions or wants for more information and do it there as well. Another thing is the comments. I already told you how comments are very useful for helping with SEO and TikTok's algorithm, but it's also very useful if you're interacting a lot with your consumers or your viewers. I think that even more so than any other platform, TikTok wants creators to like almost every video and every comment and interact with as many comments as you may can. So even if it's just someone saying, I love this video, good job, saying a quick thank you so much, or leaving, a heart there is enough to let the algorithm know that you're an interactive user, thus more people should come your way. I've seen the likes of people who have millions of followers and their videos harbor a lot of likes and comments and things of that sort, thousands of comments, I will say. And the creator will do at least put some time, set aside some time to like most, if not all of the comments there, because they know that the algorithm bodes well to a person who's highly engaged with their audience. And here, that effort is not proven for naught, whereas other platforms, you might interact with your audience, but it might not help with your overall visibility. Here it does. And so it's worth, if you're going to start here, make sure you're further interacting with your audience more than just posting the video. Keep this in mind for the beginnings of your video creations. And then when it comes to collaborative works, I think this is just, general marketing 101, where you want to cross platforms and cross niches and interact with a new audience that is already very strongly involved with one creator. What is to say if you guys create a collaborative video, how can their video and your video content combine together, create a larger, more impactful video? So again, consider working with creators, and it doesn't have to be other artists per se. It can be people who have interesting things to say. As I said here as a little pro tip is consider working with storytime creators, people who just talk about things that happen in their lives or people who submit things to them so they can read aloud their stories. Consider working with, I would say, oral speakers, if you will. And you could create the video content of you doing the art or drawing or photographing or showing a artistic process for yourself while it's being overlapped with the audio from that content creator. This is something that's actually pretty popular on TikTok and also Instagram Reels. And many artists, for example, will take a pre-existing storytime audio clip that's shareable and overlap it with their video of them just drawing quietly. Because I know that for some people, they're not the best talkers, or maybe that's not their mode of communicating with audience members. But also, most videos tend to bode well if you have an interesting story or an interesting audio paired up with it. So people often use story times as often as they use, I would say, music and sound bites that are engaging. So consider that as one of the beginning strategies you can utilize that's very accessible and also really interesting. If you yourself consider yourself a good orator or a good speaker, you can even read off stories that you know of yourself or stories that friends and family will share with you. They can share on the platform as well, while also drawing, or I would say pre-record your audio and then overlap it to the video that shows you drawing or creating your art. Okay. When it comes to optimal posting, I think a good starting point personally is 3 to 5 times a week for a realistic and effective starting point. Um, Instagram and TikTok alike will recommend much more than that. And 1 to 4 times daily is just a bit excessive, in my opinion. However, I will say, if you do want to put yourself up to the challenge and think, hey, I can make quick video content and post several of them daily, that's fine. One of the ways that I've seen a lot of people who successfully done this do it is without reaching burnout, of course, is that they'll do a lot of the video content creation on one specific day. Say they take 3 hours out of their day to make several different types of videos. Say it could be the same art piece or a couple of art pieces, and then they'll break it up into parts, or they can break it up into different themes. But at least they're working with the same video content, so they're not having to create new content every day. Rather, they take from what was 3 hours of content on one day and break it up and have it so there's a couple videos each day, um, say Monday to Friday or Tuesday to Saturday. Um, I think also understanding your peak times, depending on where you are regionally, and also what your audience is like. Are your audiences built up of students? If so, consider posting it in middle of the day where people are usually going between classes. If you have an older audience, consider after work posting because that's when people are more likely to be laid back and on their phones more so than probably earlier in the day. Um, it does depend on your audience again, so that I can't give 100% optimal times to post, but at least when it comes to frequency, consider starting with 3 to 5 times a week, and then taking into consideration the strategy that I offered. You can definitely make one video content or one theme and topic and break it up into multiple parts. That's actually one of the more popular ways I've seen content creators turn what would be a 5-minute video that you can post on TikTok and instead make it into 5 parts, each one being a minute. And what helps with this is that it will lead people more so into clicking onto your profile and interacting with you and your store, only because they're like, oh, I want to see what's next. I want to see what the next part of the story is, especially if you lead it up with a good ender or a good cliffhanger at the end of each part. And this is kind of, I would say, intermediate or advanced form of marketing yourself, but it's something worth looking into if your content you have already bodes well to that type of format for video. And ultimately, when it comes to creating a viewer and turning them into a customer, you want to make sure that your e-commerce store, whether that is your main e-commerce store, or alternatively, you can create what would be considered an e-com pop-up store that is similar to your current store, but it has different page, it has a different look and feel to it. That's all fine and dandy. What you want to make sure is that it leads a person to your store and then into a purchase as quickly as possible. I say this because a lot of the video content created here is very short form, and I would say short attention span uh fitted. So what you want to do is kind of reflect that on your store where you maybe want to consider optimizing for guest checkout, for example. Or once people click on a product, it says add to cart and check out. That way, it just requires a couple clicks, and next thing you know, they could just put in their payment information. That way, it's easy for them to move from, their instinctual gut feeling to purchase something. If you let it linger on too long and there's a lot of click-throughs, a lot of account making, you're more likely to drop off on the initial hit to want to buy something right then and there. Um, as I said before, you want to highlight products that are on the more economical price points, and also highlight any deals. And if there's anything to show when it comes to the short attention span, consider doing highlight deals or flash deals where they only last a couple days or a couple hours, and make it so that, when your customer lands there, they're aware that there is a very short and fast sale going on your store, that if they don't get the product now, they won't be able to get it later at this price point. Um, I would say, even if you don't have a TikTok shop, make sure you include direct links in your bio or your link tree as well. And when it comes to your overall video content, if you're promoting a product and that product is the one that does a lot of views and a lot of interactions, make sure to then include that as your highlight product on your website when people do land on there. But these are just some quick methods that you can do yourself. Okay, and that's about it. Let me stop sharing real quick. Yeah, so overall, I would say Instagram and TikTok are very interesting contents to look at and platforms to work with. I would say as you develop yourself as your own marketing team, if you will, it will be interesting to see if it works for you. Um, I think it's worth at the very least trying, because what happens when you don't try is you lose out on potential customers and potential popularity within a platform. Um, I know that for some people, Instagram works for them, whereas Tumblr works for other consumers, or ArtStation works for others. I would say, when it comes to TikTok and Instagram Reels, if you're still very apprehensive about TikTok itself, say you don't use it yourself, or you've heard things about it that, you yourself are unsure about it, by all means, feel free to start slowly on Instagram Reels. I think that's pretty much a really easy way to soft launch yourself into short video format. Because you don't have to give it your all on Instagram Reels. You could just post a couple videos here and there that can reflect easily what you already post on Instagram. So consider that as one of your starting points. And if you feel comfortable with Instagram Reels and it's giving a lot of viewerships and a lot of comments and a lot of interactions, then you could definitely move in and transition into TikTok. And eventually TikTok shop would be something that I would say is a really good jumping off point to go in. From what I like to read discussion boards about these things, because I like hearing customers and viewers firsthand account of these things, because blogs do answer a lot of my questions. However, some of the questions I was wondering is like, as print-on-demand sellers, does TikTok Shop work for you? And what I found through Reddit and Quora and other forums is that for some people who used to sell on Amazon, for example, for drop shipping, they have seen a lot of success with having a TikTok shop. And that's usually because they're able to see what the customer's needs are at that point in time and leverage their products towards that. And so it's more than one just to sell your products on TikTok, but it's also leveraging your products during specific trends, or maybe considering different product formats during your time there, such as, is it better to include your art on mugs, or is it better to consider textiles or a specific form of wall art? Um, there's so many things to consider, but I think if you know your brand and you have a good grasp of what your audience is like, it'll be relatively easy to understand from there on how to move into an algorithm that works for you and potential new customers. So that's about it. If there are questions, feel free to let me know. You can raise your hand, type them in the meeting chat, or talk freely here as well. I didn't see any people submit in the Google form, so there's no questions from there. So I could take questions here now. And in the meantime, if people are typing, I will say that there is these videos, if you find them useful and you want to look back at the um, slides, for example, I will be posting this on YouTube as well as every other webinar. And thank you, Heather. It's great that this was helpful for you. Hopefully you have good luck on all your endeavors when it comes to marketing and, selling your products online. I know with the very saturated online platform, such as Shopify, Instagram, and other platforms, finding your niche is always the biggest question that a lot of artists have. And I talk to people here in the office who come by and talk about their businesses and their business models and what works for them. And I get a lot of different, things from people. Some people say Instagram works for them. Some people say just on Amazon alone works for them. Some people say that they've been building up their Shopify and using SEO marketing and Instagram or Facebook marketing, and that's worked for them. But I would want to at least offer you what is the new and current trending marketing efforts that I've seen and how TikTok in general plays a part of that. Um, Yeah, exactly. And you're not the only one, Willow. Willow just mentioned that they have troubles with marketing, and what clients want to see. And I think one of the things that is worth looking into is that if you're not the best speaker, it's totally fine. I think, I would say as artists, your main profession is the art you create, and that's perfectly fine. And to adapt yourself to this format is tricky. Don't get me wrong. What I want to then offer is, you can work with collaborators, story time tellers, or even just have some aesthetically pleasing music that could do a lot for you. Oftentimes, you don't really need to talk. Some artists that have thousands of views often don't talk in their videos and post just music that bodes well with the content that they create. Showing your art at an art festival or showing that, the behind the scenes portions of your life as an artist is also something that people are naturally inclined to watch. I think people really romanticize the life of an artist. And I mean, people who I know, creatives that I know it's not always glamorous. There's things like art block, there's things like financial instability when it comes to commission-based art. And there's so many parameters that make art not as glamorous as it is for people. But if you talk about these things and bring an interesting point of view to them, you can definitely grow an audience like that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you're also more than welcome to put some nice, pleasing music and just let the art speak for themselves. And you can see what works. You could try both. And I call that A/B marketing or A/B testing rather. And that tends to work a lot for people. I get you, Nelly. It's very interesting. And um, I would say for bird watchers and people who love birds, hey, I love birds too. And I see that when it comes to a lot of viewership and then I would say transferring it to clicks or followers, it is tricky. I would say keep going at it. And if you want to consider TikTok, because as I mentioned previously, TikTok is encouraging the creators to interact with their viewership. And in turn, it's helping create more viewers come to your platform and to your items. Something to consider too is probably breaking down your videos into parts. So even if it's just two parts of a video, it brings people to click onto your page and consider seeing what other things you provide. But I know it's definitely an uphill battle, especially if you don't uh, per se work in marketing or had marketing classes. I completely get it. I think it's worth testing and kind of looking around and looking at things that might not work for you. Yeah, so Thesa talked about how we can create a faster checkout process. Um, to Lumaprints or automatically transfer them to Shopify to Lumaprints. I know that we have an integration system that we offer, which as long as you have a Shopify, as it seems like you highlight here, all we would need is your API information and also a link to your Shopify store. And we can easily integrate ourselves. So whenever an order comes in from your Shopify, it will reflect onto Lumaprints. For more details about that, we do have a webinar all around that. And also we provide guides there on the back end of our website as well. But that is to say, the process for customers to purchase on your store and then Lumaprints fulfills that order, we do offer that and it's really well integrated. So if you have any following questions, feel free to reach out to us at contact@lumaprints.com and let them know that you want to talk to Lindsay, which is me. And I can help you with that further. But thank you for your question, Brooke. And, thank you for having interest in our business. Okay, just making sure I didn't miss anyone's comments. Yeah, and if you guys like this content and you want to know more about, Instagram or TikTok or maybe other platforms such as Tumblr or ArtStation or Pinterest, I would say, let me know and I'll be sure to create videos reflecting that. And we could go into deeper dives because it is interesting to talk about these, not only as business owners, but also as a consumer myself who watches TikTok and watches Instagram Reels. And then seeing the data behind it. So I'm glad that people are really liking this. And I see some interest for Pinterest already. So really good because I'm a Pinterest user. I love Pinterest a lot. And I see a lot of artists and shop owners utilize Pinterest. So if that interests you, I'll go ahead and just do some research on that and provide that for you guys. So we both could explore what it means to advertise on Pinterest. So thank you, Heather. All right, and if there are no questions, I can end it here. But as always, we have these videos on YouTube thereafter. Thank you, Willa. Thank you, Heather. And let's see. Thank you, Ella, for coming towards here. Nelly and Theresa and Brooke. Thank you all guys for commenting and let me know what your questions are and what you want to hear from us. As always, we also do videos about our products as well. So keep an eye out for those. We are doing some more research and development here at Lumaprints, and we're always trying to see what the best products are for you guys at the best price points. But if there are no questions, I shall leave you guys here. In case you guys have any lingering questions, of course, I will still keep this open. I'll just end the webinar, but you're more than welcome to type in the meeting chat. And you're also more than welcome to leave at this point in time, but I'll see you guys in a couple weeks. So bye.